I want to welcome all of you to that first ChainTech Demo Day series. Together with we organized together with the Global Supply Chain Council and Chain.net. So I would like to introduce you to Gaurav Bubna, who's from NextBIllion.ai. Welcome, Gaurav, and so this is your time. Go ahead, yeah.
We're a few years old as a company, backed by top investors, including Microsoft. Have customers pretty much spread across globally. We're Singapore headquartered, but have customers on, I think, pretty much every continent now. Also, available through a variety of platforms. So if you're on any cloud vendor, you use different TMSs or CRM systems, you can access our capabilities through this. These are just some examples of customers we work with. Now sort of moving on. So why did we start this company? Because what we saw was businesses today across a range of industries depend very heavily on location technology in one way or another. But having said that, if you use traditional platforms, there are a range of problems that come with it. So they can be very expensive. It's not necessarily very easy to use, or you have to use a bunch of different vendors to essentially enable your solution. Use cases in supply chain logistics can often be very complex, ranging from customer to customer, or even warehouse to warehouse, region to region. And again, companies are not always able to customize this. For larger companies, scalability is also a big challenge. And then again, another aspect of this is to implement solutions and actually see results in practice as opposed to just a presentation. It often also needs a very close collaborative model because of all the other reasons I described as well. So these are some of the challenges that we saw and why we started this company. So our ambition here is to be sort of like the AWS for location technology. So any software modules, APIs, SDKs, tools that you need, you should ideally be able to come just to NextBillion's platform and be able to access everything that you need in one place. Transportation, supply chain, logistics is probably our most core focus, although we serve other verticals as well. We provide a range of different capabilities. Typical ones that come up, that we specialize in are things like route optimization, live tracking, notifications, post-trip analytics, also other things like, let's say, truck routing, maybe in a fleet telematics scenario, at the end of the trip, you want to do some reconciliation, you want to see the route that your vehicle actually took. Also, touching upon some of the software elements of the use case Venu talked about, from a tag and track perspective, we provide a whole range of solutions to support you for whatever use case you may have. You can use these independently. You can also use them as a bundle. So we provide both options. So this is a very quick summary. I'm just going to go to demos now. So I have a few demos lined up. This is not fully exhaustive of the capabilities we covered, but some of the ones that I thought would be most interesting here. So the first one is I want to showcase is a route optimization demo. So again, just like Venu mentioned as well, we're an API first company. So what you're seeing here is sort of like a demo application built on top of Retool. So what you see here is a hypothetical example, one which we may all be very familiar with, where there are a set of orders to be delivered. Maybe they have a bunch of attributes like, hey, they need to be picked up from a certain location, dropped off at a different location. There may be capacity or like weight, height, volume things. There may be other aspects to it, like let's say cold chain, that fresh food needs a certain type of vehicle or availability of certain resources. Maybe they need to be delivered within a certain time window, and a bunch of other constraints. Similarly, on the vehicle side, you may have other things like you have a certain number of vehicles. Maybe they have different capacities. They start at a particular location, such as the warehouse. They have to end maybe back at the warehouse, or maybe the driver goes home at the end of the day. There can be other things you can specify, like shift times. All of these are different attributes. They're not mandatory, but this is just showcasing all the different complexities you can specify in a very simple API. So I'm just going to, run this as a sample. So I've selected, a bunch of orders here. I'll select maybe a couple of vehicles and then just press solve. So while this is solving, so what's essentially happening on the back end is the system is running through a lot of different possibilities, trying to understand how to meet all the different constraints that we specified in the problem, and how to best utilize the objective, how to minimize the cost of these deliveries. And then it essentially outputs the plan that it thinks is the most optimal for each of the two vehicles that it specified. So, we see vehicle 1 got assigned 24 deliveries. You can see the detailed manifest here. You can also see the sequence, the total duration and time that it came up with. And you also see the exact sequence that it suggests to optimize the delivery sequence. If, let's say, you adjusted some of the parameters, in this case, we were able to assign all the orders, but maybe if the shift times were smaller, or maybe the capacities were there, or maybe you had a lot of unique orders, maybe you would have some unassigned stops, and then you have to rerun the solver with a few different things. So it's a very highly customizable system that supports a very wide range of complexities and attributes. You can specify different types of trucks. Maybe you have hazmat material, so they have certain regulations. You may even want to run this inside of other scenarios like off-road areas. So there's a very wide range of things that we support, and customizations and complexities that are possible. So this is one of our capabilities. I want to showcase a different one, which again, it's complementary to this, but it has its own standalone uses as well. So this specific one is around customization, and then just showcasing how we can handle a very wide range of customizations you may come across. So I've taken a hypothetical example here in Singapore, where imagine there's F1. So those of us in Singapore know how big of an annual event that is. And what I've done is I've created some hypothetical road closure here, which is that during F1 season, road trucks and cars and vehicles cannot access this area. So all kinds of plans get disrupted. In a different scenario, these could be safety areas. Maybe you want your vehicles to avoid. Maybe these could be other things like, certain like hazmat material cannot be driven on certain roads. Could be other types of regulatory constraints and whatnot. And how this affects your system is, so now imagine, at the core of everything, you want to estimate arrival times. You want to suggest routes. You want to track your vehicles. So if you were using a traditional mapping API, so let's call, say, TomTom, and I just picked a couple of random points around that region. So let's say this is what I suggested. And what I'll see here is a route that TomTom or any typical location API provider would support. But the reality is it's F1, so you cannot access these roads. So instead, if I look at what we suggest, so it'll take into account the fact that these roads are closed, and therefore we need to take a very different route. Now, naturally, if you were doing planning or optimization or anything around this, this would have, whether the routes or the planning that you did is based on the green line or the brown line, the impact would be very different. Again, we provide all of these through very simple APIs and tools like what you saw. The other aspect here is when I specify these restrictions or customizations, they take effect in real time. So if I make the change within the matter of a few minutes, you're going to see that effect go live. And then this effect is cascaded across the entire system. So be it route optimization, tracking, predicting arrival times and whatnot, or even turn-by-turn navigation, like an app that you provide to your drivers to say, hey, you should probably follow these routes. Again, what we see tends to be very important to be able to drive actual adoption. A common thing that we have heard from our customers is when they use a particular planning or optimization or any supply chain system, they don't. What on-ground teams end up doing can often be very different. So there tends to be this gap between proposed ROI versus realized ROI. And again, these features of this kind is what we find helps bridge that gap substantially. I'll also briefly talk about another capability. Let me just reload this. So this is, again, just very simple live tracking, analytics, and reconciliation APIs. So what we provide are very simple APIs and SDKs that you can embed in any mobile device, or like Venu was describing tag and track, you could very well ingest real-time data, real-time location data from any other sensor as well. So again, we'll take a Singapore example where let's say we create a hypothetical asset going from point A to point B. And what I'm going to run is a simulation here. So imagine the truck is going from this point to this point. So I'll run this simulation. So you can get a whole bunch of real-time alerts to say, okay, you know what? The truck has left the origin. Now it's sort of on the way. You can get a bunch of alerts. So maybe the driver was overspeeding here. So you can get these alerts. Maybe the driver has stopped along the way. So you get a different alert, and so on and so forth, going all the way up to the final destination where you get a notification that, hey, the truck has arrived or the truck is nearby. So this is sort of the, the scope of this. You can take these events later and then run analysis on them as well to understand, hey, maybe there are certain hotspots your operations team need to look into. So this is this, these are a few examples. Taking a step back, these are just some of the components that we provide. The idea is if you have any, let's say, last mile delivery scenario or warehouse management scenario, or you want an optimization module inside of a TMS, or even, for example, you want to solve the picking optimization problem inside of a warehouse, we provide simple APIs and SDKs that can handle all of these and also fetch the data from any existing CRM or TMS system or WMS system you may have, run the results, and provide relevant data or updates back into these systems. So this is basically what I had. I'm going to stop sharing and happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. Again, if you have any questions for Gaurav, go ahead, ask now in the Q&A tab, and then we'll take those questions. But let me get started with you, Gaurav. If I understand well the solutions, it's a very flexible solution, right? As you mentioned, you can easily pull data from whether it's a TMS or any other tools. So how do your clients actually use it today in their operation in Asia? Yeah.
Sure. So a common scenario is just route optimization. So let's say you need to make deliveries. You have a warehouse. Imagine you're a grocery delivery company. Now you have a bunch, your customers have picked certain time windows for deliveries. You have orders coming in, and maybe the operations team have Excel sheets, who knows? And then they have a bunch of constraints. They have different planning sequences. So they may say, hey, at the end of today, I want to plan deliveries for tomorrow. So I start planning at 5 p.m. But then more orders have come from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And just before the truck leaves at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, I want to incorporate those fresh orders as well. But 5 a.m. I learned that one of my drivers has actually, is not going to show up. So I need to readjust these. So we provide these APIs where you can specify all of these things and you get results in real time. So this is the idea. So in this hypothetical example, we provide a tool where they can upload a CSV as well, which again, on the backend just calls the same API. They can get the results and use that. If they have developers on their team, they can very well just integrate it directly with any internal tools that they have. So that's a hypothetical example.
Okay. So are TMS not able to do such thing today?
Yeah. So there are two parts. So TMS companies or TMS providers, especially the larger ones may have these modules. Many TMS providers, they don't. Even when these modules are present, what we have seen is in reality, the delivery optimizations or operational plans that companies have can often be extremely different or far more complex than what a off-the-shelf solution provides. And therefore, what ends up happening is even though companies purchase these solutions, the actual teams are like, okay, you know what? I don't think this fits what I need to do at this warehouse or in this region. So I'm going to stick to my original manual planning, or at best, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, sure. Let me see if I can run my own thing because I've been doing this for 5 years. I know how this works better.
Okay, we have a question from Akhilesh, who's asking, are you using any solvers or heuristics for the route optimization? And he's
Yes.
adding, and how does it cost to the sponsor?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll answer both questions. So yes, we have written our in-house solvers. We also own the underlying maps, so map data, mapping APIs. We also have other companion APIs like territory management, geofences, zone management, etc. So yeah, so we've written all this. This is all proprietary software. And yeah, so this can be plugged and played into different systems, handle different scenarios and customizations. In terms of cost, we offer the typical thing is it's API, so it's usage-based pricing, but we are very flexible to fit different business scenarios. So I can give two examples. Taking the same grocery delivery examples, we can price on per asset. We can also price on per order. So which is just to say, okay, you know what, we'll charge you a fixed amount per order that you deliver. And within that, however you want to use this, you want to run different simulations, every week. All that is covered just for a fixed cost per order or per asset.
So obviously the quality of a map is very important. Is there any countries, for example, in Asia where you struggle to get accurate map information?
So it's a great point. Usually, again, we work with third-party partners who've pretty much solved this at a global scale. But if you have to ask me, like, so once you get to very small countries, that's when sometimes it can be a challenge. So if you ask me, how is that map data in Myanmar, could sometimes be a problem. If I look at general India, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, it's all pretty good.
Okay, we have another question from Akhilesh asking, what sort of volumes can be handled in a single call? How much time does it take for a call with 1,000 shipments with 6 to 8 constraints? And maybe you could explain
Sure.
more. It's a bit technical here.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, so thanks, Akhilesh. So basically the question, okay, a common problem with these systems is that while they can work, to handle 10 orders or 20 orders, as the number of orders grows, if you're a larger company or doing lots of deliveries, very often it can become very challenging or really slow, or sometimes they cannot handle it at all. And what that ends up meaning in practice is you cannot do deliveries the way you want to or run operational playbooks the way you might want to. So Akhilesh, to your question, scalability is one of our biggest advantages and strengths. So yeah, we've done anything up to like 5,000 shipments in a single API call. Obviously, in terms of the time it takes, it grows with the number of shipments. I don't have the 1,000 number off the top of my head, but I remember the 205,000 number. So extrapolating to 1,000, I think it will be around 10 to 20 minutes.
Okay. So there's a lot of talks about AI these days, ChatGPT, AutoGPT, and all those different tools. Mm-hmm. How does your solution integrate that? And I'm looking again at your mm-hmm. demo. I was thinking, okay, could you just ask through chat the system to optimize certain things for you, and then it can do it automatically for you? And could also your platform actually by itself suggest some kind of optimization?
Yes, absolutely. A great question. So that's another one of our what we call modules, which is essentially AI-powered solutions. So another thing, and it all goes back to driving adoption of these solutions by actual teams. What we have seen is if we can leverage customers' historical operational data, then we can make solutions far more compelling. So we have machine learning and AI capabilities where if you have been doing deliveries or you have telematics data from your devices and vehicles and how your teams have been doing these things in the past, our machine learning capabilities can learn from that and automatically suggest that, hey, maybe you've been suggesting this route to your drivers, but your drivers typically in these times follow these routes, or you think you can do 10 deliveries in one vehicle in a day. What we have found is in reality it's only 9 vehicles, 9 deliveries that can be done. So yeah, these are all different capabilities that we also provide.
That's interesting. Okay, that's great. So in terms of coverage with your solution, you're covering the entire Asia region, right?
Yes,
Are you
absolutely.
also supporting your clients in the US or Europe?
So we have customers globally. So South America, North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Africa. We don't have complete coverage in all African countries, but yeah, pretty much the entire globe.
And who are your typical customers for this kind of solution?
So we have 3, so focusing on, let's say, transportation supply chain. So we work in 2 ways. One is, let's say tech companies, such as, I imagine a bunch of our audience. So if you're a tech company, you have the capability to use APIs, SDKs yourself. That's one customer category. A second category is we often partner with, ISVs, etc., to sell to very large traditional companies. The third category is very big enterprises with in-house IT teams can also integrate this directly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Gaurav. Oh, there's another question, or I was about to wrap up. Akhilesh is adding also. So in the past, there's been issues. I've seen issues with passing coordinates of a customer and an input for optimization. How do you address the same in B2C scenarios when addresses are not accurate or difficult to triangulate? Good question here.
Yeah, it's a good question. Unfortunately, we don't have the perfect solution for this. We offer some capabilities to help reduce the impact of bad addresses. And essentially think of it as a percentage improvement. We have a product that we call multi-geocode that allows our customers to manage their own intelligence. So let's say, Akhilesh, if your teams have been doing deliveries in the past, in certain neighborhoods or for certain addresses, again, from our machine learning system, we can then understand based on your historical deliveries that, hey, this address most likely means this location. So that's one scenario. In B2B scenarios, like let's say a Procter & Gamble doing deliveries to a fixed set of retailers or distributors, that is easier because it's a fixed set of distributors or retailers, and we can triangulate that more accurately. But B2C is, there is no good solution except over time with more of your data, we can help reduce the impact of bad addresses.
All right. Thank you very much, Gaurav, again, for sharing, what you guys do at NextBIllion.ai. Very interesting solution. I want to thank you again, Venu from Tag and Track, also to join us today. I want to thank both founders for taking part in this demo day. We will do this again. We hope that you enjoy it today. And again, we will follow up with recording. And if you have, again, any questions, feel free to contact either Gaurav or Venu directly or their respective representative to get more information about the solution. Thank you, guys. And we'll look forward again to see you next time.
Thank you so much.